once again in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, from the Revelation 14:1 ministry here in Santa Rosa, California. We greet you wherever you are, which part of the world you are viewing this message from. I know that you'll be blessed like we feel the blessings too when we search the Bible for God's truth. Today's topic continues from the last two sessions. We've been talking about the 144,000. Last week we learned from the spirit of prophecy that in Revelation 14:12, when it says, here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the presence of and the faith of Jesus. Excuse me. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus. That was referring to the 144,000. And we know that we have been encouraged to strive to be among that 144,000. So if this is one of the characteristics of this 144,000, to have keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus, then we too, if we want to be among the 144,000, should have these two characteristics. We keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus. Today we'll just dig a little deeper into what the Bible means when it says to have the faith of Jesus. Having the faith of Jesus. That's the verse that talks about the faith of Jesus, Revelation 14:12. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. So what does the faith of Jesus mean? Who does Revelation 14 refer to? That's what we found out from last week's lesson. Ms. White says it was referring to the 144,000. Those that keep the commandments of God and have the testimony and have the faith of Jesus. The 144,000. If we look into Galatians chapter 2 verse 16, let us read this verse together. Galatians 2:16, 2:3.
Knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by the faith of Jesus Christ. Even we have believed in Jesus Christ, that we might be justified by the faith of Christ, and not by the works of the law. For by the works of the law shall no flesh be
justified. So we find out here that the two things that the saints should have. They should keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus. According to this verse, you are justified. You are not justified by the works of the law. You're following this commandment, just not justify you. Does that contradict what we've been saying all along? This verse says it does not justify you following this, keeping the law, or keeping the commandments of God. Justification comes with your faith in Jesus Christ, like it says in this verse. But by the faith of Jesus Christ, even we have believed in Jesus Christ that we might be justified. you might be justified through the faith of Christ. Justification comes you having the faith of Christ. Also note here the difference between faith in and faith of. I can say, I have faith in Jesus. Who does that faith belong to? That faith belongs to you. And we know that our faith is, and most times, our faith crumbles. And that's the faith. If I have my faith in Jesus, that faith can fail me. But this verse is not saying the faith in Jesus. It's saying the faith of Jesus. So that's the difference there. Christ's faith is now residing in you. My faith can crumble at any time. We know from the records found in his book that Christ's faith, did it fail? No. So the faith of Christ is what we want. And that's the same faith that the 144,000 will have with them. They don't have their own faith. It's the faith of Christ that is in them that will keep them strong right through. Who did Jesus have faith in? We are talking here about Jesus, the human being. Remember when we study about Jesus? And this is another character of the 444,000. We'll learn later on, a little after this. Jesus as a human being, not Jesus as God. A question here, who did Jesus have faith in? Jesus the human being. Who was he praying to while he was here on earth? Everything he does, when he was about to do something, he got down on his knees, and because of his faith in who? God. God the Father. He was showing us the example that we cannot trust our own faith. Like we've said, our faith will fail us most of the time. So the verse says, they have the faith of Jesus. So this is the faith of Jesus. Every time he faces something difficult, some challenge, what does he do? He gets down on his knee and he prays to the Father. That's the faith of Jesus. He totally relies on the Father. He does not rely on himself, because he is a human being like you and me. He can fail too. So the faith of Jesus is total reliance on his Father. To God the Father, and Jesus totally relied on him for strength and guidance in everything he did. That is the faith of Jesus. He did not trust his fallen human nature to overcome evil, but he seeked his Father's guidance. We as human beings should do likewise. Jesus, the human being, he could have fallen, he could have sinned, but because he totally relied on his Father, he did not sin. We as human beings, we fail, we will sin, but because we will totally rely on the Father, will we sin? No, we won't, because we are using somebody else's power. We are not using our own power. Christ's humanity. This is found from eternity. The book From Eternity Past, page 230, paragraph 3. Let's see what Christ's humanity is. Let's read together. 2, 3.
As
Israel's intercessor veiled his countenance So Christ, the divine mediator, veiled his divinity with humanity when he came to earth. Let's stop there. So, where is Christ's divinity? It is veiled by his humanity. So that means, does that mean that he was also God when he was on this earth? Yes. His humanity, this man walking over the streets of Palestine had his humanity veiled his divinity. So you see that he could even rely on himself because he was divine too. He did not do that. Why? We won't go through this. The reason is that he wants to be an example for us human beings. He wants to be an example. When we see him, he wasn't using his own power. Otherwise, we will be tempted to use our own power, our own willpower to overcome evil. That's not what Christ wants. Christ is showing us that when he faces challenge, what does he do? He gets down on his knee and he prays to somebody else. His Father up in heaven. That's exactly what we should be doing. Do not rely on ourselves because we are weak. Rely on the Father. Faith of is equal to the testimony. Let's read this verse. Revelation chapter 12 verse 17. 2, 3.
And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which kills.
The testimony of Jesus is equal to the faith of Jesus. Okay, let's dig a little deeper into this. The testimony of Jesus. We'll ask the question, what is a testimony? When one gives his testimony, he or she is telling a story about what he witnessed or experienced. You say your testimony. Tell them, oh, I went and did this. So you're telling a story about what happened. So when it talks about the testimony of Jesus, what does it mean? It means the story of Jesus Christ. When he was here on earth, while he was up in heaven, while he came down, and then what will happen afterwards. That's the testimony of Jesus. So, the faith of Jesus is to know about the story of Jesus. His whole story starting from heaven up to eternity. It is the story of Jesus' life. Where can we find it? Where can we find the story of Jesus? In the
Bible.
In the Bible. Specifically in the 4 Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That's the story of Jesus here on earth. But then there's a story, before he came down to earth, he spent eternity in heaven. Where can we find that story? Also in the Bible, in other parts of the Bible. You go to Genesis, it talks about the Word there. And then there's the life after this, in the new earth. Where can you find the story of Jesus there? Most of it is in Revelation and other books. It talks about life after death. So everything is there in the Bible. So the story of Jesus is to be found in his book. That's where the story of Jesus, or the testimony of Jesus is. Okay, now let's link the two together. That means that the faith of Jesus is equal to the testimony of Jesus. So having the faith of Jesus means you should know about Jesus, know him personally. know him when he was God before he came down to earth, know what happened up there in heaven, knowing what he did here on earth, what was he doing to make him a perfect person while living the 33 years on earth, and then knowing what will happen to him afterwards until eternity again. So the testimony of Jesus is simply the story of Jesus. To know him personally, to know him in detail. What should we know about Jesus? These are some of the things that we should know about him. First of all, was he God? Many Christians today don't believe that Jesus is God. They say that he is only a prophet. He was the son of Joseph. Secondly, was he 100% human?
Yes.
We've learned that his divinity was veiled by his humanity. Does that mean that he was partly God? So that's another thing that we have to know about Jesus. If you want to be one of the 144,000, to be a saint, you need to study about Jesus' humanity. Thirdly, the story of his work on earth, all recorded here in the Gospels. We should know what he did here on earth so that we can learn from it and he can be our example. His work after he ascended back to heaven. What is Jesus doing now after he went back to heaven? He is doing the judgment. He's interceding for you and me. And fifth, when or whether he is coming back. We know we've been saying that he's coming back very soon. When is that going to happen? That's what we have to study. Research and find out when will these things happen. How can one know what he is doing now and well into the future? How can we know that? So, the third thing that we need to know about the faith of Jesus is this. Faith of Jesus is equal to the testimony of Jesus, which is equal to the
Spirit of prophecy.
The spirit of prophecy. Where did we get that from? Revelation chapter 19, verse 10. Let's read 2, 3. And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant and thy brethren that have the testimony of Jesus. Worship God, for the testimony of Jesus is the
Spirit of prophecy.
Spirit of prophecy. So, the testimony of Jesus, which we've just looked at, is the same as the spirit of prophecy. But we've already understood now that the testimony of Jesus is the faith of Jesus. So faith of Jesus equals testimony of Jesus, which is equal to the spirit of prophecy. So let's dig into this a little more. The spirit of prophecy. What is the spirit of prophecy? In this book, Christian Experience and Teachings, let's read together what the spirit of prophecy says in this book. Christian Experience and Teachings. 2, 3. Comparing the Bible expressions, the testimony of Jesus with the statement of Revelation 12:17 concerning the remnant which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. We conclude that prior to Christ's second coming, his true church will be keeping his commandments, and then they will have the spirit of prophecy. So it's saying there that this church will have the spirit of prophecy prior to Christ's coming. So do you think that Christ's coming is near? It's close?
Yes.
So if we believe that, then the church that we are in should have the spirit of prophecy. That's very important. If any church is not talking about the prophecy today, then that church you should get away from.
Amen.
That church should not be, is not one of the church that is talked about here in the spirit of prophecy. It says what does the spirit of prophecy mean? Let's carry on from there. 2, 3. The rapid fulfillment of the predictions of Holy Scriptures regarding the signs and events which were to mark the closing scenes of earth history is a sure evidence that we are now living in the last days. What is the evidence that we are living in the last days now? It is the
Earth's history.
fulfillment of the prediction, the signs and events which were to mark the closing scenes of Earth's history. So this church, the saints, and in particular the 144,000, they will be full of knowledge about the prophecies. This is where the 144,000 too will come from, the church that studies prophecies. They will be aware of the signs and events that are coming, which tells us that Christ's coming is very close. And we are watching that. We are observing that. Okay? It's very important that the church that talks about the signs and events of these last days is the church to be in. It closes with these words. Therefore, a company of Christian people who keep the commandment of God and who have the testimony of Jesus Christ, which is the spirit of prophecy, should today be in existence. Where would you find them? It's very important to be with the right people. That's what this is saying. The church that talks about the signs of these last days continuously warns us that Christ is coming. Why should we be warned? So that we can prepare ourselves for the day that he comes.
Amen.
That is the church to be in. Not a church that is sleeping and talking about love and money and wealth and all this. Peace. That's another danger word. Bible itself said when they say peace, 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 destruction follows. So get out of those churches that are still sleeping in these last days that we live in. Knowledge of the future. This group, they are aware of the events to come in the future. Why? How can they know that? Because they have the spirit of prophecy. And the spirit of prophecy equals the faith of Jesus, which is equal to the testimony of Jesus. They know about it because they continue to study future events through biblical prophecies. Having the faith of Jesus means that you know about the future. And that is something that the Christian world lacks today. Typical prophecies one should know of. One, the beast of Revelation 13. If you do not know who this beast of Revelation 13 is, you are sleeping. If the church does not tell you who the beast of Revelation 13 is, you better get out of it. Because these last days, and it is happening right now, he becomes very prominent in the world. You watch him on the news every day. second prophecy that I think people of this last day should be aware of is Islam and prophecies that foretell their influence today. Every day in these days, we see the violence that is done by people of this religion, Islam. Then we'll say, does the Bible tell us about this? Of course it does. And it tells us in prophecy. So the last days, people, you should have the spirit of prophecy in order to understand about Islam. If you don't know about Islam, study the Bible, it will tell you what to do. One day we will go back and study that. Another prophecy is the image of the beast. We find that in Revelation 13. The image of the beast. We'll go much deeper into that in a later lesson. And one more, that lamb-like beast that spake as a dragon. You should know about this. These are everything that's happening right here today. You watch it on the news every day. And if it does not mean anything to you, then you're not reading your Bible. And much more. There's much more. But this is what I want to bring this out because these are things that we watch every day on the TV. If you watching news, it means much more to you because you study the Bible, and the Bible is telling you about these things, and it's happening right there in your in the news. So fulfillment of prophecies is there on a daily basis. Also, having that foreknowledge is a sort of assurance for our faith. When one knows about the future, he or she will be preparing for it. We learn about the destruction. We learn about the persecution. We learn about the hardship that we will go through. When you already know, you have a foreknowledge of what you will go through in the future, doesn't that assure you? When you know well ahead what Jesus will do to his people, won't that assure you, even though you go through these hard times, the assurance that it gives you? That's the advantage about having a foreknowledge. It also removes the fear, because prophecies also reveal the reward one gets for being faithful. We know that persecution, hard times are ahead of us. But once we look through that hard times, we can see the reward. We can see beyond that, the eternal life, the New Jerusalem, all these things. There's no tears, no pain, no bad stuff that you face on this earth will ever be up there in heaven. So when you see through this hardship, you will be assured of your faith. And it also foretells that many will die, so we will be prepared mentally to die, if need be, for the truth. So if you're not one of the 144,000, prepare yourself to die, because you will go through tribulation. You will go through persecution. Only the 144,000 will leave this earth without seeing death. So if you're not one of them, prepare to die. It will be much easier to face the gloom and hardship of the future when we already know and prepare for it. Right? So that just solidifies the argument that we've been talking about. Foreknowledge, it gives you assurance. Knowledge of the future, which is the spirit of prophecy is vital for all in order to confidently face the future. So if you know what's going to happen in the future, you are more confident to go through it. When you know that Christ will be with me, when you know that the reward is behind this hardship. So having this foreknowledge is an advantage. That's why people don't care for their life. During the Dark Ages, they were burnt at the stakes. They were praising God while being burned because they foresee this hardship and they look at the rewards behind it. Humanity is not sufficient, insufficient. Christ realized his humanity is not sufficient to combat the evil. Christ himself, remember this is Christ the human, Christ the human being. He realized that his humanity, his fallen humanity, is not sufficient to overcome evil. He could rely on his own divinity, but that he would be a bad example to fallen humanity. Rely on our own willpower to overcome. So he could rely, remember we said that his humanity veiled his divinity? So he could have just, when he faced hardship, he could just use his divinity to overcome that hardship. But he wants to be a good example to us as human beings. He doesn't want to show us that we can rely on ourselves to overcome evil. He got down on his knees and prayed to his Father up in heaven. And his Father gave him the power, his power to Jesus. And Jesus overcame. The saints will abandon all human capabilities and, like Jesus, totally rely on the power of the Father to overcome evil. That is the characteristics of the saints who will live in these last days. That is the characteristics of the 144,000. They will abandon all the power, their power, human power, and totally rely on God so that they can overcome evil. So let's go back to summarize to the three texts that we're studying today. Revelation 14:12. Let's read together. 2, 3. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and have the
faith of Jesus
faith
Christ.
of Jesus. That's the first thing about these saints in these last days. Revelation 12:17. 2, 3.
And the dragon
was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of their seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the
testimony of Jesus Christ.
People in these last days should know about the story of Jesus Christ, should know about his divinity, should know about his humanity. That's what Revelation chapter 12 verse 17 is talking about here. And the third, Revelation 19:10, it says, let's read 2, 3. And I fell at his feet to worship him, and he said unto me, See thou do it not.
I
am thy fellow servant and thy brethren that have the testimony of Jesus. Worship God, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. The saints, or the 144,000, will have the spirit of prophecy. They will know the future. Why? It's not just given to them. They study the book. They study the prophecies, and that's how they will know what will happen in the future. So these are the three things that the faith of Jesus involves. They have total reliance on
Jesus, God.
on God. Secondly, they know the story of Jesus, the testimony of Jesus. And finally, they have the spirit of prophecy. They can foresee the future. This is the future. (1844). What happened in 1844? The great disappointment. And around that time too, we learn from the Bible that what started, the last days began around 1798, around that time. What gave us that? What tells us that it was around that area? Increase in knowledge. Remember, around this time was the printing press, electricity, all this, the explosion of knowledge. And also around this time, when the explosion of the biblical knowledge came to be. Remember, from 538 AD, when the Roman power came into being, till 1798, when the Roman power was terminated, all the truths of the Bible was downtrodden by the beast. Study Revelation, downtrodden. By when it comes to this time, 1798, 1844, then this knowledge will coming back. The people will begin to go to school because the printing press was there. So they have access. We want to read what's in here. So they have to go to school to learn how to read. Explosion of knowledge comes in. When they know about reading, they can now go back and study the Bible. Explosion of the knowledge, it's spiritual knowledge. Because people are now reading the Bible. That's how we know knowledge. It says that increase in knowledge came about during that time. And then we are living to 2016. That's where we are right now. I don't know when this can, oh no, that. 2016. What's the next event we're looking forward to? Yeah.
Sunday law
enforcement. The enforcement of the mark of the beast. The Sunday law. So that's the major event that we're looking forward to. Sunday law. And that Sunday law marks the beginning of the tribulation, the great tribulation that talks about. So the great tribulation continues, is in place when the close of probation takes place. When the close of probation takes place, that verse in the Bible that says, they that are righteous will be righteous still. They that are wicked will be wicked still. So at the close of probation, everything is too late. Nobody else will be repenting and be accepted by God. The close of probation. And that also marks the end of the judgment in heaven. Because the books are closed. So anybody who's trying to repent now is too late. The books are closed up in heaven. Very soon after that, Christ, He knows the result of the judgment. And He is coming down to earth to take those that have been judged righteous back with Him up to heaven. You see, all these have not taken place. What tells us this? The spirit of prophecy. They that keep the commandment and have the testimony of Jesus. And Revelation 19:10 says, and the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. That's where the things tie up. We know all this because of the spirit of prophecy. And that's also after the close of probation, the only saints that are still alive on this earth are the 144,000. They are the ones that will meet Jesus Christ when he comes down from the air. Right after that will be the 1,000 year. What happens during that 1,000 year? The saints are up in heaven. What are they doing in heaven?
Judging Jesus.
They're judging Jesus. What happens? Jesus did the judgment. Now, the saints who have been taken up to heaven will open the books and will say, okay, how come this person is not here? And then say, okay, check the books. Oh, okay. Praise you, Jesus, because if this guy is here, someone very close to me, he will spoil my being here in heaven because of his sinfulness. that 1,000 year is when we, as saints up in heaven, will be judging God. And then they return to earth, the third coming. Third coming, and then after that, the new earth is recreated. We'll go through this in another study. And then they come down from heaven and repopulate this same earth, which had been made anew. And they will be on this earth for eternity, forever. So praise God that this we know now because of the spirit of prophecy. And spirit of prophecy is equal to the faith of
Jesus Christ.
Therefore the
Testimony.
testimony of Jesus Christ. Amen. That's the end of our study today. And I hope that we will have few things about the future